Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a garden update. We have some good news and some bad news. The good news is we finally got a nice downpour a couple of days ago, so my shrubs and bushes can rebound a bit. My trees and everything were shriveling up and I was having trouble keeping everything watered. But and we have more rain on the forecast, so I think the drought has been broken. And we also have some cooler temperatures, and by cooler, I mean in the upper 80s. We were having mid to upper 90s for a very long period with no rain, and it was really getting hard to keep things happy in the garden. I did transfer some of my coleus seedlings into a couple pots, and they are really appreciating the space. They're getting a lot bigger out of their smaller pots. I also took some cuttings from my velvet red coleus, or it might be red velvet coleus. I forgot the name, but it was starting to look a little worse for wear, and I thought maybe cutting it back would be less stressful for the roots. So of course I just plopped the cuttings into the ground, and so far I think they've taken. I'll show you in just a minute where I decided to stick them. We have been having a fox come by every morning, checking out the bird feeder, and you know how many nice little creatures come to my bird feeder. So we did have a terrible bunny murder. It's quite gory. It's like the scene from Lion King or one of those nature documentaries that I never want to watch, but it was awful. I came after the fact, thank goodness. But it's amazing how much a little bunny carcass attracts, including a turkey vulture. So of course I did not take any pictures. It was too gruesome, but you know, this is the problem with having little friends in the garden. It can be a dangerous place when a fox decides to pass through. But this little garden's hanging in there. There's an awful lot of growth coming out of my do-it-yourself raised bed garden. And it looks like maybe some of my squash are even ripening. This could be in response to the heat. I see that it's starting to turn to its golden color. So I don't know if it was from the heat or if maybe, you know, the lifespan of these beautiful spaghetti squash vines are just coming to their end. So that is something to think about. Sometimes your squash plants or any of your annual vegetables will just die off when they're supposed to. They do have a lifespan, and that's why they're called annuals. So I'll be interested to see when I actually get my spaghetti squash. And of course, when you're harvesting any winter squash, you want to make sure the stem is starting to go brown, and unless the plant, of course, has been eaten or damaged in some way, you want to give it a chance to ripen on the vine. I wanted to show you my squash is growing through my pot here, and my beautiful lamb's ears, despite the heat, have really taken off. They seem to like the spot. It is full sun, but I think I showed you in the beginning I just had 2 pots of it. And I don't know, I feel like it's tripled in size, guys. Look at this. They're doing really well. This was the smaller side, and it's already filling the space beautifully. So I'm quite excited about how well that's doing. And we've got a jungle over here along the fence. I believe that's Tithonia in the back. My clematis sort of browned a bit, even though I was watering it from time to time. And I think being in partial shade with all that foliage around it has kind of saved it. Miscanthus grass doesn't seem to mind brutal weather at all because it is now at least 6 feet tall, looking very luscious and full. My elephant ears have needed a lot of attention for me in this heat wave, so I've been having to pour water on them every day for about 3 weeks, and thank goodness they're doing okay. I have removed most of the brown leaves, but they are tropical plants, so they don't mind the heat, but they do require a lot of water. And these are my beautiful old azaleas. And I tried to keep them watered, but all their blooms have gone over. And all of my transplants over here where we had to remove our big tree are doing just fine despite the heat. I think Tithonia is really tough. That's what's planted behind my sundial. And I had moved this lilac tree from the other side of that. And when I did that, I think these black-eyed Susans appreciated it. So they're all about to burst. We have a few open, but I think by next week, all of these blooms will be really spectacular. It's such a beautiful golden yellow. So the whole long border here is looking okay, so even through the heat and the drought. And over here, this is why I love marigolds. I've had to water this garden a lot because lots of plants in here are new. One thing that has not done well, it could be a combination of the heat and the rabbits, the wild rabbits, but my Dusty Miller has not done well in this space, and I'm about to yank it out. I'm not sure it's gonna rebound. I have it over there and over here, and the one that was in this corner completely disappeared. But guys, look at my marigolds. This is why I'm such a big fan of marigolds. They do great in the heat, and I have kept them watered, and I'm happy to say that I think although my little maple, blood-good Japanese maple seedling got nibbled, I think it's made a rebound here because I do see some new red leaves. So the cage doesn't look so nice, but whatever was nibbling on it seems to be deterred by this kind of open wire cage. But sometimes, you know, animals don't like to stick their heads into something like that. So it seems to have been a deterrent. So that's good news. And during the heat wave, I planted zucchini seedlings everywhere and yellow squash. And I have those in between my little cuttings here. These were my cuttings that I rooted from my arborvitae, my globe arborvitae, and they're doing well because I've kept them watered as well too. I'm telling you, I've had to keep this whole garden watered because I did do all the changes. Many of the plants in here are new plantings. So it's been a lot of watering, guys. And I'm glad we're starting to get some more regular rain. I'm sorry about the air conditioner noise, but it is the middle of the day and the air conditioner is going to run probably for the next 8 or 9 hours. But I pruned back my forsythia, and I'm really thrilled to say it's got some great new branches on it. I think I'm really going to like its rejuvenated shape next year. So that's looking good. It's darker green in the background, so I hope you can get the idea there. And my Encore azalea that my friend gave me is doing fantastic. And I do have some cuttings down here of some chrysanthemums that I had rooted last year, and they're growing larger. So guys, everything but the Dusty Miller's doing well. And then I did plant some candy roaster seeds here, and I really didn't expect them to come up because the seed packet was about 3 years old. But apparently seeds last a long time, which I did know, but I wasn't sure how long. But they all came up. Two did not come up over here, but I will now have 4 candy roaster plants growing, and we'll see if I get any winter squash from it. I did put an elephant ear back here. It is so loud, I'm so sorry. But I have absolutely gigantic leaves on this one. I don't know if you can tell from my hand, but that's a good 3 feet long. So it's all reaching towards the sun, so hopefully some more will grow up in here. But I just love that tropical look. And I've had to water my hydrangeas quite a bit because they look pretty forlorn in the heat. But let's go up to the upper terrace, and I'll show you what's going on up there. I have a few changes I wanted to show you. I do have a very full vegetable garden here, right next to the polytunnel. Hopefully the crows aren't gonna bawl me out for coming up here. Sometimes they sit up in the branches and put up quite a racket when I like to come out into the yard. There's a whole group of them up there. I guess that's a murder of crows. That's the correct term. But this is my vegetable garden next to the polytunnel, and it's pretty full. And I did plant zucchini, succession plant it, because we do get squash bugs around here. So these so far have been haven't been affected, and I think after July 4th you can consider yourself safe. At least around here it doesn't seem to be the season for squash bugs after that, so got my fingers crossed. I've already gotten a few zucchini out of these, but if you can see, the leaves are huge and they cast a lot of shade onto the soil, and that's really important when you're having a drought and a heat wave. I have bracts of tomatoes on all of my different varieties. Some of them are starting to ripen. This is, I believe, Sun Gold Select 2. And they're just loaded with tomatoes. So I'm really excited about that. I wanted to show you what I'm doing here. My friend Lori has been giving me garden debris. She's been chopping down her whole garden, which has died due to the severe heat and conditions. And I've been using it as mulch, and here's a little bit of fresh mulch, but it will brown out like the other bit of mulch. But I've just been using it, as you can see, to mulch my polytunnel beds. Here's a big pile of cuttings from her Solomon seal. So I'm making lemonade out of lemons, guys. She's had to cut a lot back, and I'm hoping that we all have some nice growth when things cool down a bit. Here's some cheerful cosmos, and they're so beautiful. I think some of my cosmos over here are going to seed. Let me just show you what a cosmos seed looks like. They're just black, and then when they're ready, they fall right out of that little seed packet there. So nature's just amazing. And I tried to rejuvenate the lavender plant I grew a few years ago from my son Charlie's seed that he gave me for Mother's Day. And I basically just chopped the root system in half and put fresh dirt under it, and I've been watering it. I also pruned it way back, so I'm hoping that it will rejuvenate this year and get a few more years out of it. Lavender can kind of get woody and peter out, but if you cut it down low enough, sometimes you'll get some fresh growth. And I have taken lots of cuttings off of it, but that's not looking its best now, but I expect it to look a lot better by the end of the season. Then I do also have marigolds. It's nice to add in with your vegetables because it does deter some pests. That might be why, fingers crossed, my zucchini haven't suffered yet from squash bugs. But this is a beautiful tall type called Mission marigold, and I think that when we get some more rain, or if I put some more water on them, they'll be covered with blooms soon. So I'm really loving the pops of orange up here. And I also am wondering about the squash bugs, if maybe by putting my spent geraniums, which are very fragrant, maybe that has deterred them. I don't know, I might be speaking too soon. Hopefully you won't see a video update where these squash plants are gone. But my way of handling squash bugs is to always have some more seedlings going. Let me show you my seedlings in here. I have a whole tray of them, and I've already planted quite a few out. So succession planting is my way of dealing with squash bugs. And everything over here is looking okay. My hydrangeas on the hill have suffered, but they were happy for some rain, and I was giving them water from time to time, but you know, it's pretty brutal. Hydrangeas don't love dry heat. But some of my elephant ears up here have some interesting variation in their leaves, and I think that's from drying out and then getting watered and drying out, but it's actually quite pretty, and I think they'll be just fine. I have been trying to keep on top of the watering. One thing that doesn't like blasting sun and heat and no water are my hostas. So they've kind of yellowed out, and that does usually happen, but it usually happens later in the season. These hostas are actually in too much sun. But further back, down there, they're doing fine because they have a little shade to protect them. So, and that hydrangea has received a lot of water from me to keep it looking upright and lovely. So, all of these things are expected given the weather, and also the location of these is less than ideal, but I think a few years ago I was thinking about digging them up and moving them, and they are really rooted in. So that's never going to happen. Then I have a new piece of art back here. This is the shade garden I recently did. And this is my new piece of art. And I made it myself out of somebody had offered me these trellises. They were a little bit rusted, and I had 8 of them. And it's actually from my friend Lori. She was going to do a project with them and changed her mind. So she gave them to me, but they're really just 2 trellises that I've painted a Nantucket blue. And that is a Rust-Oleum, I believe. But I love that blue. And I put them together with zip ties. Let me show you a little closer. This is a zip tie. Did it before I painted it so they would blend in. But I think I'm really pleased. This is just a shade corner, kind of a neglected shade corner, where I have a few boxwood and some pachysandra and some daylilies, which don't get enough sun. So I rarely see a daylily. But it's just a little shade garden that doesn't get much attention. But now it has some permanent color. So let me know if you think this looks like trellises tied together, or if you think it looks like garden art. I love to hear your opinion on it. And I'm tough, so don't worry about hurting my feelings. But I think I was pretty pleased with it, and I love having items like these around the garden because it's permanent color, even in the winter. But I thought that color looked really nice with the green, and coordinated with my bench, which is just behind these chairs. It's a beautiful bright green, so I thought they coordinated well together. I have some red twig dogwoods behind that bench, and they've lost a lot of leaves. And I've tried to throw some water on them, but I think they did appreciate the rain. So they'll be fine. They're pretty tough. And I keep throwing twigs back there, but as you can see, they do have some yellowing leaves. And all my ferns have died and shriveled up. There's some back there. I just can't possibly keep this amount of space watered, so I have to rely on the rain for some of these things. But yeah, so I wanted to show you how my artwork looks from here. You can see these 2 items together, the bench and the piece of artwork. So I wanted to make sure I picked a color that would go well together, kind of complement each other, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I actually got 8 pieces of that trellis, and I'm going to show you what I did with 4 more of those pieces. I made some teepee trellises for the rustic garden bed, and I'm loving the height it gives it. It's a little bit of a dappled shade back here right now, so I hope these are showing up. But I basically zip tied a couple of these pieces together at the top. It's hard to see from here, but I zip tied them. And I don't mind the rust, because rust actually repels slugs in the garden. But I put one here, and I've got some Chinese noodle beans planted on the far side. And hopefully those will grow up. These are wax beans, but I'm not sure if they're climbers, so they might just bush out. But here are some more zucchini I planted. And I rearranged my heuchera a little bit over here to make room for the Chinese long beans. But I think I'm gonna like this better. These are my tiny little heucheras. But this area right here is where those bean seeds were just planted this morning. And guys, those are from 2021. So we'll see if they grow. I did soak them overnight, but I'll keep you updated. These are the cuttings I was referring to earlier. And I think it's going to be beautiful in this space, and it took off some stress from that plant while it was going through a heat wave. And then I have one more trellis down here, so it added some nice height and symmetry to my bed, which I'm thrilled about. And I moved some Dusty Miller back here, and I think it's really liking this spot. And I wanted to show you how pretty my lady's mantle is. I pruned it way back. It had a lot of dead leaves around the edges, and seems to be very happy in that spot. And I think I'm going to plant more of it because it can tolerate part shade, which this area definitely is. And I have some more summer squash here. I think this might be yellow squash, but I figured this is where I planted lily bulbs, and I only saw 3 little things come up, and they got a little bit nibbled on. But I figured if I put these squash here, at least this area would be watered, and it would cast some shade when those leaves get a lot bigger. And over here, everything's looking just fine. My Sweet William I cleaned out, and my agastache are blooming. They're really pretty, delicate flowers. They're a little bit hard to see, but they're kind of like a trumpet, and the pollinators love it. Bugs go in there and drink the nectar. They're a pretty peachy color. And I'm pretty disappointed in my Verbena bonariensis, but I've got kind of a sparse stand here, just one plant. But I probably can't blame it because I'm sure it's a full sun plant. It's just such a pitiful show. I'm kind of sad about it. That was my favorite plant last year. It was a lot fuller when I planted it. And then over here I have some butternut squash mixed in with my heuchera. So guys, I planted squash everywhere during the heat wave, thinking these plants will grow up much bigger and shade my soil, and maybe I'd get some produce out of it. So we'll see. These, I'm not sure what these are. These might also be butternut squash, but I've forgotten which kind they are. But that's okay, they'll grow up, and they were older seeds, so I planted a few, and I think they all sprouted. So guys, the rustic garden bed is doing well. I feel like I've planted non-stop in this bed. I keep refilling it with things that I think will be doing better, and hopefully in a month or two it'll just be a riot of plant material. And I'm always pleased when I can repurpose found materials or gifted materials. So I'm really excited to have those TP trellises, and I'm hoping they won't blow over. I did weight them down with a little concrete piece, but we'll see. We'll see if we get any storms, if they stay up. My canna lilies are doing great. They have gotten water every day. Apparently, they're very thirsty. Being from the tropics originally, they like a lot of water and a lot of heat. So finally, after looking like not much of anything and getting eaten to shreds, they have finally taken off. And I think that is a clue to me that maybe I planted them too early in the season. So next year I'll be planting them later when it's already hot. And I want to finish with a fantastic viewer tip from Julie. Julie is a gardener at a golf course. She takes care of an entire golf course. So she's a professional, and she gave me a great tip. These are my Supertunia Bordeaux, and they were previously in my Lowe's bargain pot with some other flowers, and she said that all of those pots are always overplanted, and I could get a whole big pot of them if I transferred them out and put them elsewhere. So I put them in this tub, and they don't look their best now, but I would say in about a month they'll just be cascading all over the place. So I was thrilled with that tip. I think that's a tip I'm going to be using a lot, and I'll show you how well the other container is doing and the other flowers. And don't my marigolds look pretty around my penstemon? The penstemon look healthy too. They don't seem to mind the heat wave. They took right to those pots. Well, it's getting windy. I'm hoping for some rain, guys. And guys, this is the original planter the super tunias were in, and the calibrachoa has taken off. Oh my gosh, we even have a dragonfly here. Isn't that beautiful? I hope you guys can see it. So lovely. That's the first dragonfly I've seen this season. But as you can see, the calibrachoa enjoy having more space, and I did put some pansy seeds in there, so I don't even care if they grow, but if they grow, they can be the fall color for this container. So I was so thrilled with that comment and that advice, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Both pots are going to be beautiful. 2 pots for the price of 1, and the 1 pot I bought was half price, so I am way ahead of the game. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you're having fun in your garden and you're having good weather too. This little guy seems to appreciate the breeze.